Welcome to the stage, Garner Holt of Garner Holt Productions and Doug Barnes of the Season Pass Podcast.
Hello.
Howdy, everybody.
So your name's Garner? All right. Oh yeah. Oh, is that your company? All right. So welcome everybody to Garner Holt Productions. I was a teenage haunter, which you were.
Yeah, I was. I started at maybe preteen, I think it was.
Oh yeah. And now you just received an award for the Lifetime Achievement with the Female Entertainment Association.
Yeah, well,
Lifetime Achievement Award for being like 20 years old or something.
I don't consider my lifetime over at this point. They should call it the half-lifetime achievement award. It's like,
Yeah, well, yeah, so it's good.
but it's a great honor. Yeah, it's a great honor. There's a lot of great people that, I'm not sure whether my name fits on that same list. You know, a lot of Disney legends.
I don't know, Disneyland, Animatronics Air, Knott's Berry Farm, yeah, quite a few places.
I've worked in a lot of theme parks at this point, yeah.
Yeah. So we're here because, I mean, this is a special event. Halloween is what we're talking about here, Scare Away.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that we have about 1,200 people in the audience right at the moment.
Yeah.
So,
They took all the people here and honed it down to the very best 25 people. Thank you very much. Thank you for coming.
So here's your first slide, Garner Holt Productions, which is just a great logo. How did you come up with this logo?
Well, you know, when I was starting out in basically my parents' garage, and I decided that one day after coming home from Disneyland that I wanted to build Disneyland, and I thought, well, who built Disneyland? Walt Disney Productions. So I thought, well, let's call it Garner Holt Productions.
That works.
So when I have a Garnerland someday,
I would love to go to Garnerland, I'm just saying. That's fantastic. But, you know, what's great too is that we are actually celebrating the 45th anniversary of the Haunted Mansion, which has had the staple in Halloween. And you have a little bit of a history with the Haunted Mansion there at Disneyland?
yeah, absolutely. You know, well, you can, you back up one, that picture there's there of the, I don't know if you can do that, the Pirates of the Caribbean and the Haunted Mansion were something that I was enamored with. My parents took me to that famous place when I was 13 or 14 years old, and actually a little earlier, maybe 12. And that was the second time I've been to Disneyland. There's an earlier picture of me when I was 4 or 5. But apparently something, I guess I grabbed a piece of pixie dust because I told them on the way home in the car, that's what I wanted to do the rest of my life, was to build theme park rides like the Haunted Mansion. And that's all I could think about from the moment I got home until now.
And now you're doing this, which is...
Yeah, now we do that. Yeah, I started building things. I put a card table in the parents' garage, and then grew to 2 card tables and 3 card tables, and then pretty soon, somehow or another, they were nice enough to let me push them out of the garage and let me take that whole thing over as a workshop, you know. And so,
You know, as a kid, I had those same dreams. I wish that I actually continued to try then to get into them. College stopped me from that. But, you know, I used to actually put people in boxes on the deck and just pull them off and just call it the cliff, you know.
well, I was persistent. You know, a lot of my friends, you know, people would start things. And when I started this, Garner Holt Productions, I just, you know, had this tunnel vision that I wanted to make it work, and I had nothing. I didn't want to let anything stop me from making it work, you know.
Yeah.
So I just kept at it.
Yeah, so talking about Haunted Mansion here too, there's a little overlay that has really taken storm over there in Disney parks, well, Disneyland and Disneyland Tokyo. I guess you had something to do with this, right?
Well, yeah, we built a huge part of that overlay. You know, back in the day, the timing was just right because Garner Holt Productions at the time, we were doing parade float characters for Disney and a couple other, working a lot with entertainment. And Disney works, it's interesting how the different groups, Disney works, you know, the Disneyland parks, or all the theme parks, and the Imagineering, and studios, all that kind of thing. They're all different business entities, so, you know, when Disneyland wants something like this done, they go to Imagineering and say, we want to build this. Imagineering came back to entertainment and said, well, we can do this show, but it's going to cost this, and it's really expensive. And
as always.
Yeah, and so at the time I was hitting it off pretty well with entertainment people at the park and doing grateful characters and things of that nature. And they came to me and they said, well, you know, could you build a show like this? And I said, well, absolutely. And they said, well, you know, how much? And my price was very reasonable, and so they just, you know, said great, and they gave me an opportunity to run with it.
Yeah, absolutely, you really did run with it. I mean, we have a few sections now. You have Jack Skellington, and that's the first animatronic that you actually built for Disney?
Well, no, actually, I've done a number of animatronics, not for the attractions, but for the parks and entertainment. But that was the, you know, what was kind of a cool thing that happened, you know, after dreaming about the Haunted Mansion as a child. You know, I remember giving a talk about the Haunted Mansion in school, you know, with that famous record, you know, with the book in it.
Yes.
And, you know, I gave a speech at school about that and everything else. And so I was enamored with the Haunted Mansion. And then fast forward to, you know, when this happened in 2001, I believe it was, right around 9/11 this happened. And this was the first time that anybody was allowed, any company outside of Imagineering was allowed to put a complex animatronic, or really any animatronic figure in a classic Disney attraction. So, you know, I never would have dreamed when I was 4th grade that I would be putting a character in the Haunted Mansion itself, you know, which was pretty amazing.
Yeah. Were you, when you were building this thing, were you ever stressed being like, this thing just better work?
Oh, I couldn't sleep at nights. I'm thinking, you know, this is a make or break thing for me. If this figure works well, you know, it's going to be a hit. If it doesn't, you know, I'm going to, you know, this is my big opportunity in life, you know, to make this work. So I wanted him to be really good. So I actually put a number of movements in there that they didn't even pay for. You know, I just added to it, kept adding to it, making it better and better than they actually what they bought. Because I thought, well, if I can impress Disney, and it worked, because the Haunted Mansion, well, he was successful with the character, and then the Haunted Mansion was a hit, or the overlay. Yeah. And then soon after, they came to me and said, well, that's such a hit, we need to build it in Tokyo. Tokyo wanted it because, you know, the property was considered the IP over Tokyo was a big hit. You know?
Absolutely, and that's where the Sally.
That's where Sally is, yeah. They've, there's a couple of Sallys in the mansion in Tokyo, and there's 2 Jacks in Tokyo. Those are the Tokyo figures. That's in our workshop. That's the one on your right is the one leaning over the railing, and then the other one is the one holding the sack in the graveyard. That's what a naked Jack Skellington looks like. There's not much there.
It's very graphic, yeah. Oogie Boogie.
There's Oogie, yeah. Oogie was put into the Haunted Mansion out here a couple years later with his spinning wheel of death, and Oogie was a really cool character. Contrary to popular belief, it is not the Big Al character from Country Grinch. I wish it was. It'd been cool.
That would be cool, right?
Yeah, there was a rumor that went around for years that was the Big Al character after they took it out of Country Bear, but it is not.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because you know, Nightmare Before Christmas, and now putting characters like Oogie Boogie into Disneyland. You know, this is kind of like the first time Disneyland really devoted an attraction towards Halloween, which is, you know, something that they don't do.
Yeah, that, and you know, and we had a blast working on that thing. I'll tell you, that was the day that we were able to. I mean, we had the complete run of the Haunted Mansion. I mean, it just, we could go in it and above it, and up in the attics and the real attics, and below it and underneath it. And I mean, I never told any Disney people, or I think one of my people actually took a nap and slept in the graveyard one night. So
that's not true, Disney. Just joking.
We really enjoyed that, and got to really understand how the place worked, and contributing to it. It was really neat.
Yeah. What about this? I mean, this is terrifying for Disneyland. I mean, they seem to like it.
Well, you know, the Tim Burton thing, he was a real, you know, cool guy, come out and check things out, and, you know, the Danny Elfman with the music and all of that. It was just, you know, they really, entertainment really kind of had the reins to run with it, and, you know, made it really cool. I mean, you got to really give the kudos to the people in the park, because they conceived this whole thing, and Stephen Davidson and all those people. But it was really, really quite a show, and very successful. And you know, there's the packages at the end there. That was put in a couple of years later. You know, in place of the ghosts and mirrors there.
Yeah, so they have the mirrors regularly, where you have the hitchhiking ghost, and then with the overlay, you had a chance to have open presents over the mirrors.
Yeah, the different presents go by, and then you actually, there was one gag present that had a blast of air, and we had a blaster in there, and it shot air out at you and everything. It's kind of a big deal. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, here you guys are working on this.
I haven't seen this picture in a long time. This is building the presents in the shop before they have their wrappings put on there. But yeah, that's a good shot.
So you actually do more than animatronics.
Well, we do a lot of scenic, we do a lot of scenic elements, you know, and well, in fact, in the Haunted Mansion Holiday, we built a lot of scenic elements, you know, the big pumpkin tree, we did the spider Christmas tree in the Grand Hall, you know, all the wreaths and garlands and all kinds of stuff. We did this guy's scenic work, the big card, you know, in the load area, you know, it was quite a full encompassing show.
And just a heads up for everybody, we will take questions at the end of the presentation, just to let you know. So if you do have any questions on this, just keep it in your mind, and if you can't keep it in mind, you can keep it in all three lines that you have there, sir. Just let you know. Right, so this is obviously the Christmas. This is the spider tree that you're speaking of, or is this the?
Yeah, spider tree on the right, and one of the singing man-eating plants on the left. Those are really cool.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, there you are, man.
Yeah, I was building the plants. My guy's putting them together there. And there's the spider tree and the pumpkin mountain.
Yeah, the pumpkin mountain is always like such a visual. I mean, it's like the big weenie of the ride, right? It's a graveyard. That's like your eyes are just set on that.
Yeah, you know, not to put a downcast on this, but anytime I see these pictures, this was the image I saw the morning 9/11 struck. I walked into the shop to tell everybody, and I saw these pictures, or these pieces standing there, and I was looking at them and thinking, you know, what a world, you know.
Yeah.
And this is lodged in my head, you know.
No, well, that's a bummer. Let's move on then.
Yeah.
So, of course, we have Joyful Merry Christmas here. This is right after 9/11.
Back to Christmas. This was I think it was added later that we, you know, they decided that the show was really successful and they wanted to continue to add to it. So we built this card, and the letters changed. It went from Merry Christmas to Scary Christmas. And all these characters actually worked. They all did something and had some sort of gag, you know.
Yeah.
It was really a cool card. It was very large. Went all the way up to the ceiling of our shop.
Yeah. And it's kind of an example that you started off working on the overlay, but it was kind of like each year you were able to add on more. Was that because Disney wanted more, or did you guys have this stuff prepared for them?
Oh no, they wanted more. They just wanted to keep adding to it, and I think they still do. Every year a little bit. You know, we don't contribute every year, but you know, there are talks with us continuously about, you know, blessing it.
Yeah.
You know. So, there's that card right there. That was building that card. That was we've got a big shop, and that thing almost took up.
It's a huge shop. I've been there.
It's huge. Front area, the whole thing. But there's some of the characters. Yeah, I give kudos to Bill Butler for dragging all these out. I don't know where he gets all these pictures, but we had this is a lot of really good art, good pictures.
Oh, and this is the Japan one in Tokyo, right?
Yeah, I went and visited the show the day it opened, and we got in a line, and I thought, man, this is a long line, and I realized it was the fast pass line. It was 2.5 hours long. The real line was almost 5 hours long to get to this thing.
Yeah, I heard that they like rides like this. I heard that they like these kind of rides.
Oh yeah, the IP over there, the Nightmare Before Christmas IP is incredible. They just are enamored with it.
Yeah, that's a better entrance than ours. I mean, I like the one that doesn't have. I really want to go to that. Oh yeah, there's Jack and Sally from Japan.
There's a vampire Teddy pops up out of the box that she has, and he's standing there talking to Sally. It's a good scene.
I'm gonna put in my phone. I need to really book a trip to Japan, and also get a passport as well. So we have the bus here. This is still Japan, right?
Well, as everybody knows, the Haunted Mansion in Japan is a copy of the one in Florida, which is different from ours. It's flatter and more spread out. They have the music room and library and a couple other things. And so this is Zero decorating the spinning Christmas tree books that are in the library there, and he's decorating the garland. This was actually a pretty tricky thing to build because all those books needed to look like they're floating, and we pulled it off, but it was a tricky mechanical device, and Zero's kind of floating around the room, putting garland on there. It's a pretty cool little scene.
Are you giving away any secrets today?
Oh, I will.
You're going to say no. Well, I mean, is there one little trick that you can talk about that kind of?
Oh, well, there's things under the floor, that cause the thing. It's on a mast, but it's just the way the books are supported in such a way that you can't really see how they're being held up. And then we had trouble to, we had to rig up Zero so we could float around the room and not get that garland caught in the books, because as soon as he catch, it would start wrapping it up and pulling him up to it. So it was kind of tricky, but we made the scene work. We stage all these kind of scenes at the shop, make them work. Everybody inspects them, and then we ship them over, and that's the only way you can do it. There's a lot of problems to work out building something like this.
All right, and then there's one more of Sally there.
This was really cool because the little vampire Teddy was pounding on the keyboard and turning his head looking over at Sally. So it's a neat little scene. She's a great character.
Really great. And then of course you have the three trick-or-treaters. Shock Lock.
Yeah, Lock, Shock, Barrel.
Whatever. I don't know.
These are the in place of the three hitchhikers.
Yeah.
And they just pop out of their boxes. This is kind of a black light scene.
All right. So obviously you achieved so much just with that overlay in Disneyland in Tokyo Disneyland for Halloween. But before that,
how did it all
happen? Oh my gosh. That's still Disneyland. It says Disneyland, and it's in the USA too.
Apparently that was my first trip to Disneyland. And that was my hat, my dad.
Yeah. You look kind of unsure a little bit. I'm sure that you're happy.
I probably was ticked off that I was on the monorail. I want to go in the Haunted Mansion.
We won't let Bob Gurr know that.
Yeah.
All right, the Haunted Mansion.
Yeah, the famous record that I had in 4th grade that started it all.
Yeah.
My mom bought me that at Kmart.
Oh my gosh, okay. So
well, that's our pirate ride. Yeah, we basically that was the beginnings of the pirate ride. So I dug holes all over the backyard. This is just the beginning, but this is the point. At nighttime, this is testing during the day, but I would dress up as a pirate. I put my record player next to the hole, turned on the record player, and I would charge my friends to go, and I'd push them down this little thing into the water, and then I'd pull them around the yard, with the animals and things. And that. If I couldn't get any friends to come over and ride this thing, I had a pet goat, and I put him in the boat and push him down. But that was the beginning.
Did you ever go in it yourself?
That is me in there.
That's you there?
That's me.
Let's see you
white
survive.
t-shirt.
All right.
Yeah.
Really well themed. I love how you did the dirt there.
Yeah, it's very realistic rock work there.
Oh my gosh. So line paper sketching, right?
Just because we're getting into all the dirt about how this really happened, I mean, what happened was that boat thing that you just saw, that got bigger and bigger, and it got to the point where literally everything that I did was endangering the kids in the neighborhood. I strung up a piece of cable across the yard that my neighbor gave me, and unbeknownst to my parents, I put a pulley on it in a bucket, and I'd have kids climb the ladder, and I would pull them across the yard. It's my skyway, Disneyland skyway. And my parents would come home from the market, and they'd see these children hanging in the bucket. And so they told me, they said, well, you can't do this. And I said, well, Mom, Dad, so finally, I said, well, what can I do? What will you allow me to do? And I said, can I build a haunted mansion? And they said, well, okay. And so my dad came out and he helped me put some wood together and built this This was my first design for Haunted Mansion. It had an entrance door and an exit door and a few things inside, and this was my first Haunted Mansion. This is when I was 13, I think, 13 or 14.
What kind of power did you use to lift the people up in the bucket?
Oh, I just put them up in a ladder, and then they climbed in the bucket, and then I would take a rope and I'd pull them back and forth. It was powered by me.
Yeah, powered by
but yeah.
GH power.
That was it. If the rope broke, they just hang me. Well, this is the floor plan. So you go in on the left there, you pass the Frankenstein and another dead body, and there was a talking skull, and you go through. It was about the size of a large bathroom, you know. So, but to me, at 13, that was my Haunted Mansion. I mean, I was styled at that point. I had a whole,
you were,
you know.
Yeah, no, it looks great. You have the whole arrow. Do people, when you had it planned, did they actually have to make sure they stayed on that line? They can get the arrow.
Oh yeah, that was, they walk on that line. So, well, you know, that haunted house kept growing. Every time I get any extra plywood or anything, I just add to it. I kept building. Pretty soon it was this giant Winchester house in the middle of the backyard. And I went down to the local paper. I would go down to Lucky's. I'd drive my bike down to Lucky's and pass out flyers to come to the haunted house, and they'd throw me out. They'd threaten me for trespassing and things. So finally I drove down to the Sun Telegram, which is a newspaper in San Bernardino, put all my allowance on the table, and I said, can I buy an ad for the haunted house, my Haunted Mansion? And they wouldn't even talk to me. They just shooed me away, and I was real upset. And fortunately, a reporter was standing there listening to all of it. His name was Steve Cooper, and he said, well, tell me about this place. You have a haunted house? And he says, I'd like to come out and see it. Came out and saw it, and a couple weeks later, to my delight and my parents' horror, they opened up the paper one morning, and here's this article. It says, Garner Holt's his name, scaring people is his game. 400 people showed up to my home
to your house.
And
wasn't it in your backyard?
It was in the backyard, yeah. It was, and that's me there in the control room, and that was when I was 14, and it was a horrible evening. I had a lot of people show up, but it started raining, and my dirt floors turned to mud, and the electricity shorted out, and a lady fell through the wall, and had a lady lose her purse, and it was a big mess. But I charged 25 cents a head to get in, and I gave all the money to the Cancer Society, and bought everybody pizza. So that's what we do with the money. So that was the very beginning of the commercial Garner Holt Productions, because I actually charged money to get people in.
There you go, man. Early businessman.
That's the picture inside. That was the top part of the article. That was walking through, looking at the talking skull. That was in front of the room that was, you know, simulating the Pirates of the Caribbean. I had a skull in the back that flew off an organ, but you'd wind your way through this thing, and that was a posed shot. But
is that carpet?
Yeah, that's carpet.
Oh,
yeah. In fact, that was the carpet out of my mom and dad's bedroom. When they changed the carpet, that became one of the finest curtains in my haunted house.
Made it a lot more elaborate. All right. Well, here you are in a trailer here.
Yeah, you know, so what happened basically after that haunted house, a couple of months later, I was still in junior high school. I was 14, 15, maybe 15 at that point. And I got a call slip to the office, which wasn't uncommon, that I get called to the principal's office. And I was always in trouble somehow, but they called me up and they said, you know, a lady at the mall of San Bernardino, which was Central City Mall, wants you to call her. So I gave her a call, and they said, can you build us a haunted house for our mall? And I said, well, sure I can. That's what I do. I build haunted houses all over.
I'm 13. That's what I do.
So I asked my parents if they could buy me a suit, and they bought me a suit at Sears, and I went down to Goodwill, and for 50 cents I got a briefcase, and I became a businessman at that point. So I went down and contracted to the mall for $1,000 to do a haunted house. Well, I bought this trailer, believe it or not, from a guy down the street. This was a burned out construction trailer. You couldn't see it now, but it was actually totally torched inside. It was totally burned. And he sold me this trailer for $200. And I spent all years putting plywood in it and turning it into Garner Holt's Haunted House of Mystery, that I could pull it into the mall in San Bernardino.
Nice. I like that dog's like looking up at you like, what the
I know,
hell
all
is
bringing
this?
people into the house right there. So.
All right. it. Oh,
That's what it became.
Oh my gosh, you're a stud.
Well, you know what? You know, I'm incredibly well preserved. I look almost exactly like it. It's like looking in a mirror. I can't believe it.
That's amazing. The hair, though.
Yeah, that was the '70s look, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, a guy that worked with my mom was a kind of an artist, a semi-artist, and I talked him into coming out for pizza and paint my trailer for me. And we painted it black, and he painted some monsters on it, and that became my haunted house of mystery.
What I'm learning now is that you always start your business with pizza.
Yes, pizza. I still do. And there it is. Look at the queue. Look at that incredible queue there we have. And, that was in the mall, running the haunted house.
It literally is a trailer in the mall. Like,
Yeah, right.
people are, there's a huge line. How much were you charging for this?
$1 or something. I don't remember what that was. I think we raised our prices. I started out at a quarter, and then I went to $1, I think. For this.
Yeah. You are a businessman.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is, there I am in my little haunting suit, and then I have my girlfriend's running the front door, so it worked out real well. It was very successful. Look,
look at that.
You see the satisfied customer?
Yeah, he looks extremely satisfied. I don't know how scary it was in there, but damn, that was actually fun, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
Look at that. I want to be that kid.
This is one of the headless men that apparently he at one point was holding his head. I'm not sure where his head went at this point, but he would run and he would fly down the track at you, and we would crank him back up at the end of each tour. So, you know, it wasn't very sophisticated. Remember, still.
Well, he's also the headless man.
Much left. It was pretty simple.
Yeah. That's good.
Another talking skull.
Was that his head?
The skull and then the organist. Actually, that's the back of my head, so the organ. But I had an organist figure that spun around and fly at people. I think that's the next slide. Oh, maybe not. But anyhow, newspaper article just talking about the haunted house.
Okay, excellent. So obviously you were hitting the newspaper, and now we're getting into some very sketchy.
So I found a local artist to start drawing some effects for me, things that I wanted to do, and I would sit and describe them to him, and he would draw it for me, and a guy that did some drawings for the paper. So I was actually starting to hire some artists. I think I paid $20 a drawing for these things, and tried to create artwork for things I wanted to build. Ooh, this was my first Yeti. Fur straight from Joanne's Fabrics, things like that. So this was about 1979, I think, something like that.
Yeah, Shaq was really in during that time. So.
Yeah, that was like a bedspread probably at some level. But these are some of the heads I started sculpting. I started trying to learn how to sculpt. I took a casting of my face. That was my face down there at the left. I didn't understand how to use alginate at that time. Yeah. So I literally had a friend pour plaster on my face. And as any of you that have done that now know, that's not what you do. I think I still have scars and burns from when that happened, but that's how I got that.
Well, you're dedicated.
I laid on the floor and let them pour plaster on my face.
And how long did you have to lay like that for?
Quite a while. That's the hard one and everything. I was a trooper, though.
You look kind of demonic there. Oh, wait, your face was...
Yeah, it's down the forehead. Yeah, that's
just the bottom left one, people.
Yeah. This was one of my early control systems. I had some cam units and little devices. I taught my electronics teacher in high school into letting me work on my haunted house controllers as opposed to working on radios and things they were building in the class.
Yeah.
I was able to, build controllers in school.
So you learned all of your electronics and your way of building gears kind of through high school teachers?
And teach myself.
Just trial and error?
Yeah.
I hope the errors weren't too bad. No fires?
That was the first animatronic figure I built. It was a moving animatronic figure, that vulture. He sat on a signpost. That was my... The haunted house in that mall started to expand into many other malls. I did haunted houses for malls in Orange County and things like that. And this was a flat, bolt-together haunted house that I did in a mall. I was probably 17 at this point, and I'm not sure why I dressed that day as a pirate because it really didn't fit with the house. But This was the haunted house that they had in the Mall of Orange in Orange County. And that vulture was my first animated figure. And actually one of the people from Disney, Disney staffing people came out to see that vulture and tour the house at the time. That was kind of cool.
Awesome. I saw you lowered your admission price down to 75 cents.
Yeah, I think that the mall asked us to do that. Yeah, we were working for the mall at that time.
Jerks.
Yeah, this was some of the scenes. You can see they were starting to get more typical haunted housey, you know, with this was an animated figure that popped out of the, you know, or leapt out of the casket, and conservatory scene and that.
So was this actually built like in a special place in the mall? Like did you actually build a room?
We put flats together, bolted together. It was a flat bolt together house.
Nice.
Just to sit right in the middle.
It was a true haunted thing.
It was a true haunted house, you know, house itself. You could walk in one end out the other. It wasn't a trailer. They couldn't pull a trailer in that mall, so this became kind of my trademark for all my haunted houses. I had an organ chamber, and you'd enter the chamber and the skeleton would be playing, and then he'd spin around and fly at you, and the lightning would come in the room, and he'd spin around and fly across the room, and that became something I had in every haunted house that I ever did. It was always the big finale or the big first scene or whatever, but I called that the organ chamber, and it worked out real well. Really had a good time with that. That was Uncle Ludwig. This was a scene, you know, as he's playing there, and then I think the next, if you click it again, I think you can get him.
Ooh.
Then he's spinning around, and then click it one more time, and that's him flying at you, and he'd stop just in front of your nose. It was very effective. I'd have people pile up on the floor right in front of him.
Well, yeah, because the arms up is the position, the official position of scary.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That was Uncle Ludwig.
Oh,
just an entry.
that looks real.
That
looks like.
Yeah, you know, when you're 17 years old, you want to buy skeletons. You know, I tried to convince my mom that the skeletons that you could get at the time were cheaper if you could buy the real ones, because the plastic ones cost more. And she said, "No, we won't have a real skeleton in this house." So I had to pay more money to get that than I would normally have to. You know, so.
Oh, looks good.
I got into makeup and effects and that. That's with a friend of mine at the house. One of the things that I did, this character here, I called him Corpses, and I put him in a wheelchair, and I put a radio control device in the wheelchair, and I motorized the wheels, and I had it at the point where I could literally hide in bushes and drive him around. And I put a tape recorder with moaning and groaning sounds, and there was a liquor store across the street from my house. And we would hide in the bushes, and he would drive through the driveway, and he would drive across the street, and we would circle the phone booth when people were in the phone booth. You know, in the old days, they had the phone booths, and he'd be moaning and everything. And you know, we'd do it as long as it took the police to show up. Probably more exciting than that, we were near an Air Force base. There was severe traffic in the daytime, and we lost control at one time. He drove off a curb and tipped over and rolled into the street, and we stopped the entire Norton traffic in front of the house, and people jumped out of their cars, you know, thinking this is an old man, you know. We almost went to jail for that.
Well, I love the fact that this person beside you is actually like, "Are you effing kidding me?"
So we stopped using it, yeah, you know, trying to describe it. So that was fun. So we did a lot of makeup effects, and you know, I went through that whole phase as a child, or a teenager, I should say, that, you know, doing makeup and movie monsters and all that kind of stuff. You know?
Yeah.
So just some of the effects.
Is that the same skeleton we saw just a little bit ago?
Yeah, I would crank those out. We, you know, I put one in the car and I drive around with it. Actually, we had a flood in San Bernardino. There was a San Bernardino when they had a huge flood after a fire one year.
Yeah.
And we took one up in the mountains and we buried it in the mud and just left it. And then a couple days later, it was discovered, and it was this big, huge thing. And they had this APB out for whoever did this prank. And it was really effective. I was real proud of that.
No comment.
There's Ludwig the organist right there. We're posing with him. He was probably one of my most effective creatures. That was
That's a less scary position with the palms kind of down a little bit.
Yeah.
It means that you can approach it. What's this to the left? What's going on here?
That was just another character figure that jumped out of a chimney that I was working on there.
Jumped out of the chimney?
Yeah, the chimney of the haunted house in the mall. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, and a couple of pop-up characters.
In the official scare.
Pop-up
hands
pop-ups, jump ups from behind walls and stuff.
What is that to the right?
What's that?
What is that to the right, that model there?
What character is it?
Yeah, I mean, what is that?
It's just a conglomeration of whatever that I could.
Whatever came up in your mind right now. Oh man, I'm carving this.
Yeah.
All right.
These are scenes from the workshop after I moved out of the. Well, actually, this one is in my garage. This is in the garage. This is before I moved out of the house.
So when you actually started your business out of the garage, basically.
Yeah, this literally started in the garage. Yeah, I was making molds there and everything. It was pretty cramped.
A little. Wow.
Yeah, and then this was in a building that I moved into right after the garage. So, some of my mask collection things.
I see that your buildings just keep on getting bigger and bigger and bigger too. All right.
Yeah.
Oh, you just have a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it just continued to grow. I worked there day and night. I'd sleep there. I lived the life of trying to make these things work. At this time, I was my only employee. I was my only employee. I did everything myself for probably 8 years, 10 years.
So were you just doing haunts for malls, or where did it expand from this point?
Malls and things. Anybody that would have a haunted house, I started making. Nowadays you can buy all this stuff. If it's your event out here, but there was in these days there was really none of it. And I started making a chopped off bloodied hand that I would sell. And I took one. I had a friend that's a lifeguard. We took one to the beach one time, buried it in the sand, and also almost went to jail over that. But I started making them, sold them all over the world. A magazine called Fangoria. There was an old magazine and years ago. I put an ad for Garner Holt's bloody hand with a bloody stump, and I sold them all over the world. It was amazing. Yeah, that kept me going here for a while. I paid the rent with bloody hands.
We're finding out that you were very mischievous here, Garner, through every single project that you work on. Oh, there it is. Oh my God.
That's the famous bloody hand.
There you go.
Yeah, complete with bloody stump. It was $14.99, and I could make them for $1, and I could sell them, and I sold them, with pure profit. It was really good.
I need to get to talk with you after we're done with this.
But in these days, nobody else sold this stuff. I mean, there was Don Post who had some masks and things, and a few little things in Fangoria, but nobody else did this. And otherwise, I would have bought it. I would have been buying them, But so I was one of the original suppliers of this kind of stuff. So it's kind of neat to have that in my history,
Yeah. No, I would totally buy one, but it's so 1978 now. So,
oh
my God, look at I love the hair.
Yeah, well, that's I was talked into that by a girlfriend. I never did that again. That's like a really bad perm. That's scarier than the hands are. Let's move away from that. Thanks a lot, Bill. Point that out.
Okay. We're looking at it a little longer. Okay, so what is this here?
Well, I found a guy that was a Disney artist named Glenn Schmitz, and I wanted to do some monsters. Actually, I was asked by Knott's to do, this is the haunt stuff that I was doing. They wanted me to do some things for the Knott's haunt. And I built this creature. It was called the Goblin. It was loosely based on the thing in Poltergeist, it comes out of the TV, but I turned him into a full-size creature. And then I started building him. And there he goes.
Yeah.
And this was in my little workshop. This is in my first shop outside the garage. It was 1,700 square feet, and I worked there for probably 8 or 9 years. And this was the Goblin going together, and he was a real success. Knott's rented him from me for the Halloween haunt.
Nice.
A couple of years in a row. He was very effective. He would jump up and kind of jump over you. He blew smoke out of his mouth, had red eyes, and things. It was a neat character.
Oh,
yeah,
really terrifying.
Yeah, it was a real character, real cool guy. He had his fingers that move, like this. Really, I really enjoyed him.
Yeah. All right, and big haunting. So we move on from what you did as a hunter, you know, as a teenager, and this kind of became your business. You started working on animatronics, but yet haunting was still in your blood, right?
Very much so. Yeah. Well, here we are. This wasn't very long ago. This was the Mystic Manor at, you know, there's a big chunk of time that kind of jumps from where I was in the last slide to here.
Yeah. There was a lot in between. That's what he's
Okay,
saying. You
yeah.
did a lot of things.
Yeah, we, you know, at this point now, we're very proud to be one of the primary suppliers for the Disney company for animatronics, and then we're actually have supplied more animatronics than any other company in history. We built almost 5,000 animatronic figures, over 400 of those for the Disney parks. We're the world's largest animatronic company, and we do, well, we do several hundred figures a year for theme parks worldwide. We worked in 33 different countries, and this was one of our latest things that we did for Disney, which was the haunted, or the Mystic Manor in Hong Kong. And we were honored to have been asked to do a lot of the major figures there, which were the monkey Albert, and he's a very complex animated character.
You know, it's an adorable monkey too, and I know that you guys worked really hard on Albert. I remember speaking with Mark Shermer one time about Imagineering, talking about that they regularly had plans for Mystic Manor to be a real monkey, like it looked like a real monkey before it was cute monkey.
First drawings I saw, it was kind of a real monkey. It's almost like not a chimp, but one of those smaller monkeys, you know, spider monkey kind of thing. Yeah. And this turned out, I think, to be a more effective storytelling tool.
A little bit more charismatic, but it's adorable.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, is that an organ in the background there?
Yeah, the organ, we built that organ. It's a huge organ based on one in Mexico. You know, this is kind of like a haunted mansion, and it's in Hong Kong. It's a different style. It's more like a haunted museum in a sense. Yeah. But you know, Disney haunted mansions always have the organ. Well, mine always had the organ, and it's just kind of weird that, one of the first things I built for my haunted house was the organ chamber, and then now we're building giant organs for Disney haunted mansions. You know, it's just kind of it is a weird circle. Yeah. So I mean, you're in Hong Kong. You're building this kind of stuff for Disney and their new. It's not a haunted mansion, but you know they call it Mystic Manor, so you have a chance to really kind of go back to what you loved first. You know, which was a haunted mansion at Disneyland, and be able to kind of create that again in a way for Hong Kong. Yeah. And that's an Albert selfie, by the way, right? Yeah. Yeah, there it is. It was a big piece, and it was just a beautifully done piece by I have about 70 people in my staff, and some of our most talented people in the world at what they do: sculpting, painting, figure fabrication, just about everything. You know, we can build amazing stuff. There's the samurai. He's very animated. He's about 7 feet tall, and Albert sticks his head out of a cannon, and the samurai takes a swipe at him and barely misses him, of course, and that's a real neat scene. That would really sink if he didn't miss, because that would be the end of the ride right there, right? That's Albert's not our guide anymore. What's that? It would be Albert's not my guide anymore. That's right, yeah. Yeah, that's a neat scene, and we have, right after that, we have there's Albert. He's been nailed up against the wall with some spears and darts and arrows, and he's shivering and looking around and making his squeal. But keep going there. We have a big atrium, and that's Mama there to the right, and Albert's poking at the little baby plant, and the baby plant's snapping at his finger. In the meantime, Mama is noticing what he's doing, and she swings around there to take his head off, and kind of looks over at you like you're involved, and she starts kind of turning and going after you. So it's really a beautiful scene, beautiful scene. This is the Monkey King. This is the end of the attraction. This is where he stirs up the room like a hurricane, and you spin around this guy in your vehicles, and the whole room starts blowing apart. The walls fly off, and the windows fly off, and it turns into you're in the middle of like a tornado. And and you barely escape with your life, of course, just like any good Disney attraction. But it's a very effective scene. That's a little longer shot with a lot of bright lights, but use 3 or 4 cars spin around this at the very end, and then all the room flies to pieces.
Yeah, and they're using like high-def screens as well, right?
Combination of scenery and high-def videos and things like that, but very effective.
Albert made it though.
Yeah, that's I think the final scene.
Yeah. So I mean, really, Albert started this whole thing, you know, and you follow this cute monkey through.
Yeah. What happens is he basically in a museum, he basically opens Pandora's box, and then what you experience is the whole house coming to pieces and everything coming alive, and then at the end he barely gets the box closed, and thankfully
that's
the end of that nightmare, you know. This is Taylor, who's out here at the booth. They have Bill right here. What's the name of it? What's James' booth? Figment Foundry. Figment Foundry. Yeah, this is Taylor and James at Figment Foundry out here. Taylor is our CG artist. She did that. Developed a lot of the characters for this show on screen there. She's developing the Monkey King. It's the first time a Disney artist has been able, or the first time an artist has drawn a classic attraction character that wasn't employed by Imagineering to be in a classic ride.
It's a good thing to have there on your portfolio.
All of our mechanics are built, you know, we build everything by designing on SolidWorks and all hydraulic designs. This is what, you know, a typical head would look like blown apart, which would be the, you know, like an Elmer head or something would be blown apart for production.
Yeah. I look at that and I get nauseous just about trying to put that together.
What's that?
I get nauseous just about
just looking at the pieces. Yeah, some of the loosened things.
What is this?
There's some spots where it looks like he's going up the stairs and he's walking towards you, and these are devices that make them look like they're moving up and forward.
It's amazing because you look at all this stuff, you know, like you showed the eyes before this, and you just don't realize how many gears really go into simple movements that you put.
Oh, it's crazy. You can't imagine how much effort goes into making a character look like he's coming up the stairs and walking out and talking to you and everything else, and how much, you know, how much design, effort, engineering, art, and funding that's behind that. It's amazing. This is some production shots, things that you would see around our shop during the production of the characters. Some of the props and things, we do a lot of sculpture props and special effects and props, and we actually do whole dark rides. I mean, we'll do everything. The only thing we don't do are ride vehicles. We don't actually do anything that carries the guest, other than, you know, back in my backyard when it was
or wheelchairs that kind of
wheelchairs. But nowadays,
people in the streets.
If you build a facility and you do, and we'll contract out the ride system, and we'll build the entire attraction, you know, whatever is needed. This is just an inside photo to show how characters, when you put a mask on a character, this is inside of all the snaps and things in the silicone that allow you to snap it onto the head and make sure that it's secure. This is what some of our characters look like when you take them apart and open them up a little bit, what they look like inside. Very complex pieces of machinery, have to last, you know, for years and years and years. Very durable. You know, there's a lot of cloth in these things. Mechanical frames, a lot of precision machining.
You didn't even have to put that as clamp screws in the shoulder. I would have already known that.
Oh, of course. Yeah.
Just he's helping you guys out.
Yeah. There's a lot of the things we do in paint we have to do some real complex finishes, you know, so we have to do full finishes. This is a marble, or not marble, jade. This statue needed to look like it was jade. Little girls painting the organ pipes.
That's awesome. There's Albert naked.
Oh, any costume?
Yeah, Albert not naked.
Yeah, before paint and after paint, getting some costume work done. Yeah, these are there's a lot of effort that goes into these things. You know, it takes months and months and months to get these things right. That's the big bellows, you know, that pumps the organ. This is our programming studio where we take the figures when they're complete to be programmed. You see a couple of the cars from the Cars attraction. We built 12 of the cars in the Cars Land ride.
Yeah, that little ride Cars, Radiator Springs Racers.
Yeah, that's Lizzie and Sarge.
Sarge.
They were being programmed in there. And the cannons.
Oh my gosh.
And there we go, from the haunt in my yard to the haunt in Hong Kong.
Yeah, Disneyland Hong Kong.
And look at how close those things look too.
Go back, yeah. Very similar.
Yeah,
very similar. But Albert, well, actually, he has his hands down too. You should have both Albert and him with the hands up in the official state.
I should have him screaming and flying at you.
So before we get to the questions real quick, there is also one thing that you've done that I just want to bring up to everyone here is that you've been working with Knots lately. Knots obviously are, you know, huge in the haunt history, with being really the first ones to do an official haunt in a theme park. But you have been able to restore a couple of attractions for them, classic ones, Tim Mount Log Ride and Calico Mine Ride. And you, obviously, that's amazing work to be able to restore something that's so classic to this industry.
You know, I've been very fortunate and very blessed to have the opportunity to, you know, my life has really been a neat life to be able to go into the Haunted Mansion and Jungle Cruise and Space Mountain and Build a Dragon for Fantasmic. You know, I used to watch the...
Oh, that's it? Just, yeah, Build a Dragon for Fantasmic.
No, I used to watch the Munsters.
Yeah.
It was my favorite show as a kid, and I used to watch the fire-breathing dragon come up from under the stairs.
Yeah.
And I always wanted to have one of those. And then when I got to build a 40-foot fire-breathing dragon in Disneyland, it was my spot, you know, and it's like how these things all came to reality for me, you know. And so jump to Knots, you know, when I was a kid, I would sit on my dad's lap and go through that mine ride, and I thought it was a real mine, you know, and then I'd go on the log ride, and I thought it was a real logging operation, and then as I found out as a teenager that these weren't real things, well, I never would have known that years later, you know, fast forward 50 years, you know, literally the mine ride and myself are the same age. We were both born in 1960, so we're 53.
You don't have long hair back in the
Yeah,
day.
yeah, and so we were able to go in and completely redo the log ride, which we quit 2 years ago. We did almost 100 figures, completely revitalized the new scenes and made it new again. And we're actually, I think, better than new because it has all this new animation in it. Then last year they asked us to do the mine ride, so we put over 100 figures in the mine ride, and it turned out really cool. I hope everybody likes that.
Yeah.
But just, you know, going through that place, having experienced it as a child, and then now you're living, you know, redoing these things, it's just an amazing thing.
Yeah, absolutely. How many people out here have actually ridden the new Calico Mine Ride? It's a phenomenal. I want to talk about the glory hole.
Oh, well, go right ahead.
Yeah. A question I always had, and I think the audience also has the same question. How did you shove so much in there?
I had no idea. Big question, Mike. Well, that is an interesting mining term that was used for that took on another meaning. But actually, we put a lot of figures in there, and it worked out really well.
Even at the very top, how were you?
You look like you're turning red.
All right, let's turn the questions to the audience now. All right, I'll get you in a second, sir. You, with the 3 heads, you had your hand up like right at the beginning.
It's actually 6 heads. But
oh, 6 heads, I'm sorry.
My question's about your design and construction process, particularly with Disney, because I've worked with Disney and they're, you know, extremely brand loyal and very, very particular about how everything has to look. Mm-hmm. And so I just was wondering, especially when you were first starting out with them, did they have kind of like check at every level of your project, or was it basically just, well, this is the finished product we want, and figure out how you want to do it as long as it looks how we want it to look?
Am I seeing you right? You have 3 heads, right?
It's actually 6. It's just pointed
All right. Yeah, in the beginning, you know, Disney would come to us and say, we have something that needs to be built. They would describe it all very accurately, and they were a little leery in the beginning, but when it got to the point, you work with them just like anybody else. You get to know all the people there, you know what their personalities are, directors and everything else, and they get to know you, and they know what you're all about. Then when we started doing things like cars or even before that, Mermaid Ride, we did 2 Mermaid Ride groups, characters, and they start to work with you, and then they let us design, so we were like the cars engineering, we did all the engineering, design, everything else. They let us know what they wanted, but they still come out and are direct, and I mean, they're wonderful people, and they know what they want, but they're very, very diligent about exactly what they want. I mean, they'll send 5 people out to look at the color of something to see if it's the right color, so, I mean, they can be very, very much, watch over your shoulder to see what you're doing, but then at times they can let us just run with it. When we're building Jack Skeleton, I think that, they came out once or twice to see how we were doing, but, I mean, it just depends.
One more question, and it's certainly top hat, right?
Well, corrections. I really want to thank you for, first of all, the work you did at Knott's, respecting the history of them and bringing up to date like that at the same time.
Yeah.
Really amazing.
Thank you.
Kind of tied to that, the mine train in particular has a long history at Knott's. It was one of the first rides that was done for the event. Do you have kind of in your back pocket there some ideas for what you would do if they allowed you to do an overlay during one?
Yeah, we'd love to do some overlays. I'm not sure what is being planned this year. We pretty much just tapered off of getting the thing installed this year, so we're not really doing anything. I'm sure they have plans for it, but yeah, we would love to do some overlays and things with them, and others. We'd be glad to be participating in that, should they want us to do that.
But you still do that kind of blue sky, boy, I'd love to do that. You were showing the drawings earlier, things that just in your head, boy,
we do that occasionally, and sometimes that sparks clients into wanting to do something. We are really busy right now, and this is probably one of the busiest we've ever been. We do a lot of other things like in the theme parks now. We work for the projects in the military and stuff like that. So, but we and have a couple other dog rides in the works, but we are real interested in working with our clients that way. And if I understand that something's planned for this year, but we're not too involved, but if they'd like us to in the future, we'd be glad to be.
Awesome. All right, guys, so they're telling me that I have to cut it off because otherwise I'm going to piss off everybody back there. So once again, I'm Doug Barnes, Season Pass Podcast. Garner Holt.